listen up. People love you when you're easy to control, but when you're not, you become the villain in their story. Life doesn't play by the rules you expect. When you people please your way through life, you become an easy target for anyone who wants to exploit you. Let me start off by saying that becoming her is not for the faint-hearted. When a woman is serious about becoming her, she knows that it's not about drinking matcha, going to the gym, or saying she's in her soft girl or boss girl era without doing the inner work. When she's ready to step into her hot and unbothered era, she commits to the process of becoming her, the woman she was born to be. And the only outcome is the highest expression of who she is, not anything that we see on Instagram. Let's get right into it. Honestly, I'm exhausted by the quiet competition between women that nobody talks about. This is something I've noticed in recent years, and it makes me really sad every time. Here's the thing, it's not loud, obvious rivalry, but that subtle, quiet competition that lives under the surface. The way we compare our bodies, relationships, careers, emotional strength, who's coping better, who's more put together, or who's more desirable. It's rarely said out loud, but you can literally feel it in the room. What actually bothers me is how often this competition isn't even intentional. It's actually learned behavior. Instead of seeing each other as allies, we are quietly measuring ourselves against one another even when we don't want to. Think about it. These are potential friendships that could be viable for emotional support. But in reality, compliments get misinterpreted. Success feels isolating. Vulnerability feels risky. And sometimes it feels safer to stay guarded than to genuinely connect. Because you never know if you're being seen as a real person or a benchmark. I don't think women are naturally competitive with each other. At some point in our lives, we are taught to be. And the worst part is, I hate that I wasn't aware of what's really happening until I started losing female friends over the years. First of all, I was accused of many things that were surprisingly not consistent with my character, but they insisted that it was the truth. Because let's be real, it's always easier to blame someone else for your discomfort than to see and accept things for what it is. Looking back, I realized that I always chose to leave without over explaining myself. Because what's the point of doing that when they're committed to misunderstanding you anyway? As much as it hurts to be misunderstood, you need to prioritize your peace at all costs. Hot and unbothered girlies value their peace over comfort. Also, here's a gentle reminder that we can all decline to participate. Unfortunately, so much of what we see on Instagram is female competition, showing off their homes, their kids, their luxury cars, their so-called perfect husbands, particularly those that's earning money from posting their relationship content. And the problem is, most people believe everything they see on social media when it's just a bunch of curated highlights. Take it with a pinch of salt. Redirect all the energy and focus back to yourself. Dedicate it to your own growth and protect your mental health. Trust me, your life will keep getting better as long as you're committed and consistent in leveling up instead of comparing yourself with others. If you want to be truly hot and unbothered, you have to understand that there is no competition between you and anyone. It's just you competing with yourself and your imaginary criteria, which is your list of goals and expectations. By the way, the criteria you set for yourself will give you a sense of control and a sense of direction in life. It has to be specific for it to work. Let's say that you want to lose 10 pounds by summer 2026. You have about 3 months from now to lock in and work on your diet, exercise, and lifestyle by creating a routine that works for you, the one that actually caters to your needs, not the one you see on Instagram models. Whatever standards you decide to uphold is at your own discretion, but of course, it has to be flexible and realistic. Here's what you should do. First of all, you're not seeking permission to exist, but asking people for advice on how to live your life. If you don't want their life, you don't take their advice. It's not that deep. Honestly, I've reached a stage in my life where I'm so unbothered by people or things that are not aligned with me. If my relationship with you is not serving me, I'll not hesitate to cut you off. I hate to break it to you, but for a connection to be sustainable long term, it has to be mutually beneficial. This brings me to my next point. If you truly want to be hot and unbothered, you can't be pretentious. I know how this sounds, but hear me out. You have to be mentally prepared to confront your ego whenever you feel like you are taking on another persona that's just not who you are. The thing is, you have to be so comfortable in your own skin that you don't feel a need to be someone else other than yourself. Honestly, if there's anyone who wants to ruin my reputation, go ahead and do it. I'm not going to defend my name because I know who I am, so I don't have to explain myself to anyone. The thing is, when you have high standards for yourself as well as the people you surround yourself with, you'll be easily turned off by people who are not committed to their personal growth, and you have to accept that your inner circle will be really small. Instead of being friends with everyone you meet, you are very selective of the people in your circle because you know they'll influence the way you think, the way you do things, and the way you feel about yourself. Not everyone deserves access to you because you finally know your worth, and your worth is not up for debate. At some point in our lives, we have allowed negative comments to haunt us in our sleep, in our subconscious, to the point that it's affecting the way we see ourselves. But most of the time, it's not about you, it's about them. Their insecurities are screaming through the roof, so they're projecting it on you to make themselves feel better. Never allow anyone to make you feel inferior. Stick to your own ideals. By the way, everyone has their own insecurities, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, the root of being insecure is the fear of being disliked. Here's why. When I was 23, I had to do a 6 months internship before I could graduate. Let's just say that it was the most traumatizing experience I ever had in my early 20s. Growing up, I was bullied my whole life, and the thing is, I've always been bullied by my own female friends. Because of that, I developed people pleasing tendencies, hoping to gain their approval. I still remembered how I was so excited to start my first day at work, not expecting it to be a complete nightmare. And that is having a female manager who is competitive with you. Mind you, I really tried everything. From being extremely agreeable to overcompromising, I've done it all. The fact that she would frequently make comparative statements in front of everyone had always made me feel uncomfortable, and I tried my best not to show my emotions. Eventually, on the last day of my internship, I broke down and started crying in the bathroom as I called my sister for help. Looking back, it was such an epic experience that actually woke me up from not having boundaries. If you truly want to be in your hot and unbothered era, the only acceptable fear is the fear of not growing. Nothing scares me more than being stagnant in life. Mind you, that's the difference between being stuck and being stagnant. Let me explain. There are seasons in our life where we can be stuck to remind us to realign with our purpose or to prepare us for what's coming. But being stagnant is a choice. Here's why. Being stagnant comes from lacking a sense of purpose and staying in your comfort zone for a long period of time, which ultimately leads to a resistance to change. Whereas being stuck is usually temporary. There's a desire to move forward, but an inability to see a clear path. It's like facing a roadblock on your way home. It's not that difficult to navigate your way through, but due to the fear of the unknown that makes you second guess yourself, you stop finding a way out. The truth is, being stagnant often leads to inaction due to a lack of purpose in life. Most of the time, it also leads to overthinking, which creates problems that weren't there to begin with. All the doubt, fear, and anxiety are holding you back from living your best life. They steal your peace, your joy, and your purpose. Eventually, when you look at the bigger picture, you'll realize that they are just distractions. If anything, they only exist in your head and they are real if you allow them to be. Over the years, I've noticed that the hot and unbothered girlies have a strong sense of purpose in life and they align their path based on it. They don't dwell in fear or misery for too long. Instead, they learn to regulate their fear and emotions through journaling, yoga, meditation, breathwork, or simply just taking a walk. Very often, they don't obsess over whether they're making the right decision. They just take the leap of faith and keep going. If you're obsessed with making the right choice, you're missing the point here because you basically assume that the universe will reward you for one thing and punish you for another. But the thing is, the universe has no fixed agenda. Once you make a certain decision and commit to it, everything works around that decision. What most people don't understand is there is no right or wrong, only a series of possibilities that shift with each belief, thought, feeling, and action that you get to experience. At the end of the day, I can assure you that you will never miss out on what's truly meant for you. If you really want to be hot and unbothered, the best thing you can do for yourself is to become your own dream woman. Well, she's a woman of substance, a woman of character, and a woman of integrity. She's bold and kind. When a woman becomes her, she's the main character of her life. She's the protagonist. Her confidence comes from purpose, not social media validation. She knows her value, her worth, and where she has been settling in life. She starts taking accountability for her life choices and rejects anything that doesn't align with her. She doesn't stay in places where there's disrespect or entertain anyone out of obligation. When a woman recognizes that her value comes from who she is and not what she does, she becomes unstoppable. Let me say this again. You know yourself better than anyone else. Being grounded within yourself requires you to be the master of your emotions, not the slave of it. Because when you're grounded mentally and emotionally, it's very easy to be at peace with yourself and be secure in your own identity because you're calm and certain about who you are and where you're going in life. Let's be real, being calm is so underrated in a world full of chaos. It doesn't mean that anyone can take advantage of you. In fact, it's the opposite. Your boundaries are shown in the way you carry yourself and the way you handle disrespect, not by words. Anyone can say that they don't tolerate disrespect, but how many of you can actually call out the disrespect calmly when it happens to you in real life? You'll be surprised that most people prefer to shove it under the rug because they want to be perceived as being nice. Here's the thing, if you want to be hot and unbothered, it doesn't matter whether people like you or not. The day you stop asking why they don't like you is the day your life will begin to improve. By the way, it was never your mission to be liked by others. Your mission is to show up and be your best self every day. Anything outside of you is none of your concern. Ultimately, you can't please everyone. If someone is angry at you, that's not yours to fix. Their anger is theirs to process. If someone doesn't like the choices you make in life, that's their problem. Not everything is yours to carry. Their disapproval of you doesn't mean that you are doing something wrong. But of course, it goes without saying that if you know you're making a string of bad decisions in life and refuse to take accountability, you should definitely reflect on that. After all, to be hot and unbothered is an identity based on high self-worth, and that's what we all want to achieve, isn't it? Thank you for watching and click to subscribe if you enjoy my content. Bye!